Let's go.
So we've got two more to go for today. Two more clubs, and we will go back into Lincoln's famous hat. This is actually the hat that he was murdered in. I managed to get a hold. Yeah,
I mean, what a priceless artifact.
It's been dry cleaned. Brisbane Lions. Now, we've both alluded to this already in the program today that we think that they are a good chance to contend again this year. I really honestly think that there's not too many holes in their side. Brisbane, they've got one of the best key defenders in the comp in Harris Andrews. I think their forward line is probably the best in the comp. It's certainly up there. That there's not any teams that have an outstanding forward line because footy's not played that way anymore. But when you look at, Rayner going back into there, plus, Bailey, either of those guys swapping between forward and midfield. Lincoln McCarthy, I think, is a really high caliber small forward, and Charlie Cameron, obviously a star. And then I think Danaher, there's every reason to think he'll be better. McStay, I think, improved a lot, certainly in my eyes last year. I think he's a really solid contributor, and then they'll get Hipwood back. Talking even sort of round 6 or 7.
He could be back even round 4 or 5. I've seen a few ones, so he could be very early on in the season.
Yep. So it's a good, and obviously the midfield we know. So there really isn't too many holes in this team. I think it's a very, very good team on paper, certainly in the top 4 on paper. And look, they've had disappointing final series over the last 3 years, but they have been beaten by the best. Like, you look through it, they've lost to the grand finalists. I think in every occasion that they've played finals last year.
Yeah, they haven't been dropping games to, like elimination finals to the 8th place side or whatever. It's been like, we've actually played against the best team in the competition.
Yeah, they've just been the sort of 3rd to 5th best team.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that they are close. I think that alone is enough indication that they are close. They're a bee's dick away from a premiership. They just need things to go right in the finals, and they need to kick straight in the finals. That's been one of their major issues as well. But with a full season from a fit and firing Lockie Neal, get Rayner back in there, get Hipwood back in there. Berry, he was awesome in the scratch match the other day as well. So I don't see many holes in the Brisbane Lions squad, and they're certainly not getting too old either. Like they probably contended ahead of time, to be honest, a few years ago. So
they were. I think that's why we sort of can give them a little bit of a pass for failing in these finals, because really they made that leap 2 years ago where half their core players were 20 or 21, like McCluggage, Berry, Bailey, Rayner, all these guys were just kids. Harris Andrews is still relatively young, Hipwood's still young. So they've got time, they had time. It's now getting to the point where this should be prime. Like, this should be the time where this list is ready to win. Obviously, Lockie Neal, I guess, knocking back interest from Freo or
however that happened.
Whatever weird situation happened with them. But he's back. You mentioned it before. They don't have a hole on their list, I don't think. I mean, what do they need? They needed a lockdown small defender, and then they got a guy who, in Starcevich, who could have made the All-Australian team last year. Daniel Rich running off halfback with his lasers. They've got an aggressive winger in Mitch Robinson, who everybody's afraid of because they don't know what he's going to do. I suppose the only thing, is Oscar McInerney good enough as your number one ruckman to take you to that premiership? Maybe. I mean, that's a question mark, I think. But we have seen plenty of teams win without elite ruckman. And I don't think Oscar McInerney is an elite ruckman, but I think he's fine, and I think he can do the job.
I think he's good enough in the hit-outs that he will give them first use, and then I think because they do play that 3-pronged attack, McStay's quite a physical guy around the ground that can do that, so it probably works. They've also brought in Darcy Fort, who I know is not a gun by any stretch, but he's a handy backup if things don't work out. So, yeah, and then a bit of talk about positional switches, as there was last year as well.
Yeah, they do this every year.
yeah. I don't believe for a second that Lachie Neale's not going to play on ball for 95%
Lachie Neale
of
and
the
Jared
game.
Lyons are not playing wing and half forward. Like, it's going to happen. That was the...
No.
Fagan said, like, oh, we're going to play Harris Andrews at full forward 2 years ago. Yeah. Harris Andrews has not played a minute of forward in his entire career, I don't think. So
well, he shouldn't, because
he's the best key defender in the competition. Yeah. No.
So, high hopes for Brizzy this year. The one thing that will really cut them about the final situation is the fact that they keep losing finals at home, and you don't get finals at home all the time. So you need to make the most of them. But they should be playing finals for the next
3 or 4 years.
5 years.
Easily.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right. So we're both big on the Brisbane Lions. Now we're going to